Through the town of New York rode a stranger one fine day. Hardly spoke to folks around him, didn't have too much to say. No one dared to ask his business, no one dared to make a slip. For the stranger there among them had a big plastic on his hip. Big plastic on his hip. It was early in the morning when he rode into the town. He came riding from the south side, slowly looking all around. He's an outlaw, loose and running, came the whisper from each lip. And he's here to do some business with the big plastic on his hip. Big plastic on his hip. In this town there lived an outlaw by the name of Brian Thompson. Many men had tried to file claims with him, and many men were dead. He was vicious and a killer, though a youth of 54. And the notches on his spreadsheet numbered 7 million more. 7 million more. Now the stranger started talking, made it plain to folks around. Wasn't Pennsylvania valedictorian, wouldn't be too long in town. He came here to take revenge on the CEO, and he said it didn't matter, he was after Brian Thompson. After Brian Thompson. Wasn't long before the meeting was relayed to Brian Thompson. But the valedictorian didn't worry, he knew where he would be. Well, hundreds of men were going, 100 more would be in attendance. One would be the shooter with the big plastic on his hip. Big plastic on his hip. The morning passed so quickly, it was time for them to meet. It was 6:40 when they walked out in the street. Folks were watching from the windows, everybody held their breath. They knew this handsome shooter was about to meet his death. About to meet his death. There was 10 feet between them when they stopped to make their play. And the swiftness of the shooter is still talked about today. Brian Thompson had not cleared leather for a bullet fairly ripped. And the shooter's aim was deadly with a big plastic on his hip. Big plastic on his hip. It was over in a moment, and the folks who gathered round, there before them lay the body of the CEO on the ground. Oh, he might have went on living, but he made one fatal slip when he denied health coverage to a mom of him with the big plastic on his hip. Big plastic on his hip. Big plastic. Big plastic. When he tried to deny coverage to a family with a shooter with a big plastic on his hip. Big plastic on his hip. It was over in a moment, and the folks had gathered round.